The cafe was alive with chatter, the hiss of the coffee machine blending with bursts of laughter. Afternoon sunlight poured through the large windows, casting a warm glow over the crowded tables. People leaned close in conversations, friends shared stories, and couples sat shoulder to shoulder. At one corner table, Maya gripped her coffee cup a little too tightly. She had chosen this cafe because it was supposed to be quiet, a safe place where she could read and escape the noise of her thoughts. But fate rarely asked permission. Her heart froze when she saw him, her ex, Daniel, walking through the door. Tall, confident, the kind of man who never failed to draw attention. He hadn't noticed her yet, but Maya knew it was only a matter of seconds. Memories of their painful breakup rushed back. The arguments, the betrayal, the tears she had promised herself she'd never cry again. Panic rose in her chest. She wasn't ready for this. Not today, not here. Her eyes darted around the cafe. Everyone seemed occupied. Everyone except one man. He sat alone near the window, a half-empty cup of coffee in front of him, his gaze lost somewhere beyond the glass. There was something about him quiet, distant, almost lonely. In that instant, instinct took over. Before she could second-guess herself, Maya stood, hurried across the cafe, and bent toward him. "Please," she whispered urgently, her voice trembling. "Pretend you're with me." And without waiting for an answer, she wrapped her arms around him. The man stiffened in shock. Strangers didn't hug him, at least not like this. His name was Ethan Walker, though most of the world knew him by his title. Millionaire entrepreneur. Founder of a successful tech company. But here, in this cafe, he was just Ethan, a man who had quietly slipped away from boardrooms and luxury hotels, seeking peace in anonymity. He looked down at the woman clinging to him, her shoulders tense, her breathing uneven. There was desperation in her hug, but also trust, a silent plea for safety. For a man who lived most of his life surrounded by people, yet untouched by real connection, the feeling startled him. Ethan cleared his throat softly, then placed a careful arm around her. "All right," he murmured, playing along. The encounter, Daniel's voice cut through the cafe. Maya's heart lurched. She tightened her grip on Ethan, forcing a smile she didn't feel. Slowly, she turned her head. "Oh, hi, Daniel." Her ex frowned, his eyes shifting between her and the stranger. "Didn't know you'd be here." "Yes," she replied quickly, her voice steady now. "I'm here with my friend." She glanced at Ethan, silently begging him to understand. Ethan met Daniel's eyes calmly. He gave the smallest nod, as though confirming her story without hesitation. His composed expression carried a weight Maya hadn't expected, an assurance that said, "She's not alone." Daniel hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. His arrogance faltered in the face of Ethan's steady gaze. Finally, he muttered something under his breath and walked toward another table, pretending he didn't care. Maya exhaled sharply, relief washing over her. The aftermath, she stepped back quickly, realizing she was still holding onto the stranger. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment. I'm so sorry," she stammered. "I didn't know what else to do. I saw him, and I panicked. I shouldn't have dragged you into this." Ethan studied her for a moment. Her eyes, though flustered, carried a raw honesty. He wasn't used to people approaching him without an agenda. No business pitch, no flattery, just a desperate, human moment. "It's all right," he said finally, his voice calm. "Looks like you needed a hand." Maya blinked, surprised at his kindness. "Thank you. Really, I don't usually do things like that." A faint smile tugged at Ethan's lips. "Neither do I." For a brief second, the world outside the cafe seemed to disappear. Two strangers, bound by an unexpected hug, stood in the middle of the noise, sharing a silence that felt oddly comforting. The hidden spark, Maya returned to her table, but her eyes kept drifting toward the man by the window. He had gone back to his coffee, yet she noticed the way his shoulders were less tense now, the way he seemed lighter. Ethan, on the other hand, found himself replaying the moment. He had been hugged countless times in his life by admirers, colleagues, even distant relatives, but never like this. This hug wasn't about who he was, or what he owned. It was about protection, about trust. For a man drowning in loneliness, it stirred something he hadn't felt in years. Neither of them knew it yet, but that single, desperate act had lit the first spark of a story neither would forget.